the information that's housed in the first generation of the ecological site descriptions, taking what was in the range site descriptions and adding to it. And I'm not going to read all that, but so in a perfect world, we would have done all that. We would have had the time and staff to do it properly. However, we didn't, and we got a little baggage. So, taking this precipitation map and laying the MLRA boundary map within it, you can kind of see, you know, these precipitation zones cross MLRA boundaries, and you know, they're pretty broad sweeps of land for one set of sites. So, moving into the future, getting Doc Brown's time machine, going to the future. Pretty sure that the future has PowerPoint, so I think we're okay. The second generation of ecological sites, we will address the foundational issues with the Generation 1 sites. We will update them to match soil map units and their components, which we are currently doing now. We will develop land resource units to make the sites more specific to a smaller area. And what we are using are precipitation, temperature, frost-free days, geology, elevation, aspect, a whole slew of things to develop the LRUs to put the ecological sites into. So this is kind of a rundown of what the new report is going to have in it, which all of this is pretty much currently in the report now. Although if you pull some stuff out of ESIS, some of this might be missing. Some of it's pretty vague. So we're going to work on that. We're going to expound it. We're going to make it pretty solid. One of the biggest changes is how the vegetation report is going to read, and the state and transition model. So currently in Wyoming's Generation 1 ESDs, the state and transition model is there, and we have a narrative on the HCPC plant community or state. In the future, we will have a narrative written up on every state and plant community, and there will be a plant table for each one of those. So it will be very, very extensive. That part of the report will. And we'll have, you know, the basic supporting information. This is interesting, and I haven't quite wrapped my head around this part yet fully. But the naming conventions of the plant communities and states need to crosswalk to this system, because apparently a lot of people use it. I saw it for the very first time last year when they told me that it existed. And so there's a lot of information in there. But basically what I think I was told is that the names of the plant communities and states need to be associated somehow with the plant communities that are housed in this national vegetation classification system. So, yeah, that should be interesting. How do we use the ecological sites? I'm gonna run through this real quick. So, basically, we use it as something to support management decisions. It has some information, a lot of information in it that you can use to do that. We can use it to measure performance of rangeland. We can use it to assess the risk in our management goals and transfer knowledge from U to I to U, here to there, that kind of thing. So now I want to kind of focus in on my kingdom, is what I call it. So I'm down here in good old Rocky Springs, and I am in charge of this kind of reddish blob. which is MLRA 34A. So, yeah, that's my kingdom right there. Boom. So if we look at it right now, I'll kind of use both screens so everybody can see. Basically, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is that right? 5 different precipitation zones, so 5 different sets of sites that we would use in roughly 23 million acres. Seems like a pretty big chunk of ground for 60 some odd sites. So as we move forward, I mentioned LRUs earlier. This is my proposal for LRUs. Oh, I wanted to show you this too, because I like to cut things up. This is the boundary between 34 and 43B, which is the Rocky Mountain country of, well, it goes from Canada clear down here. But anyway, if anybody's been to Kimmer and drove up 189 and up to Pinedale and then around to Lander, I've driven this road a million times, and I get up to South Pass and it doesn't look anything like the desert to me. So I cut it out. And that little horseshoe is what we call it over on that side of the mountain, is being proposed to go to a new MLRA, which MLRA 46, which is the foothills of the northern Rocky Mountains, I think is what it's called. So each MLRA has a name. 34A is the cool central desertic basins and plateaus. So it's cold and dry. And anyway, where we had 5 different precipitation zones before for ecological sites, now I've broken them into, just in Wyoming, 11 LRUs. So 5 sets of sites now will become 11 sets of sites. That's not even counting Colorado. And I don't even know what to do down there yet, but I have to do something soon. So anyway, there might be another 4 or 5 in Colorado too. So anyway, it's a big workload. Let's talk about the process a little bit. And it's kind of muddy. We're still deciding what the process is. I'm going to try to stay as much away from the policy crap as I can, because it's really dirty. But basically, we have kind of a tiered system that everybody's kind of agreed on. Tier 1 being, go out there and look at everything. Just drive through it. Say, yep, that looks like sagebrush, and that looks like a lowland, and that looks like whatever. And this is a really good way to get some concepts developed. Just drive around, and it gets you out of the office too, so that's pretty good. Then we move over here. We got these tech teams, and Margie and I are the only 2 NRCS people doing this right now. I'm in the south, she's in the north, and nobody's over here, so sorry guys. But anyway, we have some tech teams established. We're always looking for more input from other people. But basically, the tech team are the local experts in the area that set the priorities for us. Then we have a management team, and that's the higher-ups, the kind of the office jockeys that point us in each direction. And then we have a board of advisors or board of directors, which are, in NRCS, there's state conservationists that reside in the regional soils office now, is what they're calling, the old MOs. So Margie and I are in Region 4, and Region 4 covers Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, Utah, Colorado, and New Mexico. So not the whole states, but parts of them. So that board of advisors or board of directors are the state conservationists from those states. What else we got in here? We got this kind of data collection, tiered data collection system. And I'm not going to go into that too much. But then we draft some sites, we get some ideas, we send it out for review. People look at it and say, yeah, it's pretty good, but this needs change. So we go back and we do some more stuff. And anyway, so that's kind of that flow chart. And yeah, and here's kind of words that describe that flow chart, the bottom of it anyway. So ESDs are a hypothesis starting out that we draft, test, revise, retest, redraft, retest, revise, until everybody decides that that's a pretty good product. We didn't do that before. We're doing it now. It's a living document. It's a two-tiered process. Tier 1 being that technical team I just talked about. Tier 2 being local work group, which, okay, so the technical team is MLRA-wide. The local work group is the project group, which I have elected to put into LRUs. So if you saw that map, let me go back here. I go all the way to Laramie and Woodruff, Utah, and Meeker, Colorado, and clear up almost to Casper. And a lot of you might be thinking, well, heck, I worked over there. How come you didn't call me? Well, because I live in Rock Springs, and it's easiest for me, being one person, to start where I live. So the Green River Basin is my focus right now. And then I'll kind of move east. But that's not to say that you can't contact me and get a local work group going out in your areas and just keep me abreast, because really I'm just the keeper of the information. You guys know everything. So I just wanted to touch on the ESIS ID part, because it's going to start to change next year, really. Right now, this is what it looks like. The R being rangeland, 034A being the MLRA, the Y is the LRU, the 000 is the site ID, and the WI is the state that it resides in. The new way it's going to look, we think, is the R034A, still the same, but the Y, which houses the every LRU right now in Wyoming, will turn to LRU A, B, C, D, E, F, G, blah, 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 blah. And then the site ID. State code gone, because we don't care about states. LRUs go into other states. MLRAs go into other states. It's not a state thing anymore. It's MLRA thing. So I'll just touch briefly on state and transition models. This is kind of what they look like in Wyoming right now. The main thing I wanted to point out is the HCPC, or a reference state, right now has one plant community in it. And this is a transition to another state and blah, blah, blah. The way that they are going to look, and this isn't one of mine, I stole it from somebody, but basically we have a reference state in bolded block here, and then plant communities that reside inside that state, which in theory move back and forth naturally. So these are now known as pathways inside a state. The T denotes a transition from state 1 to 2. The R is a restoration pathway from state 2 to 1, and so forth and so on. So this will be kind of the format that you'll start to see in the new ecological site descriptions, and then there will be a narrative kind of thing telling you what this is below it. I didn't put that in here, but so wrapping up here. Basically, there's a lot of work to do, and I can't do it alone. So this is me soliciting help. Cooperation, it's a must. I'll touch briefly on the interagency handbook or manual, whatever they called it, that came out. So the Forest Service, BLM, and NRCS chiefs got together and said, we need something that all three of us can use instead of Forest Service doing this, BLM doing that, NRCS is off doing their own thing. So they all came together and said, this new ecological site description initiative is going to be collaborated on between those three agencies, and they're going to eventually adopt that system. That being said, NRCS is the lead, but BLM and Forest Service are basically tasked with supplying information into the system. They have to sign off on it for it to be correlated. That's the new term they're using. Right now they're saying that there's 3 stages of the approval for an ecological site. There's provisional, which I can throw in a name and very few information and just plug in information as I go. That's a provisional site. I'm the only one that can see it. And then it goes to an approved stage where NRCS signs off on it, and then a correlated stage where the NRCS state office signs off on it, the NRCS soils regional office signs off on it, and cooperating agencies sign off on it. For that to happen, there has to be a published soil survey, which is going to take some time to finish in my country. So, and lastly, the future is coming. So we'll get back in Doc Brown's time machine, come back to the present. Probably by the time we get to the future, it'll be the past, but we'll see how it goes. And I stare at this. This is me staring at this thing saying, where do I go? So, any questions? Yeah, Justin.
Climate change at all in the news areas too?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. That's a project for you, maybe. Yeah, well, you're going to have to tell me how to do that, because I don't know. Oh, yeah, sorry. Yes, sir. And maybe I'll just...
I would just question the farm or you have an idea what it's going to take you? Realistically.
I have no idea.
Okay, sure.
Right now, being that we don't have published soil surveys in the entire state, we can't make any assumptions on when the sites will be ready for correlation. With that being said, we can get some sites to an approval stage with the caveat that the survey will be published at some point in the future. Basically, I can take what I have now, put it in the new report, and say that this covers 65% of the extent of this area. There's a problem with that, though, that if people aren't educated in knowing, if people don't know it, they're going to use it in places that they shouldn't. So I have a little bit of heartburn doing that, but that's kind of the way we're going, I think. Well, everything that we have in ESIS is approved. Oh.
My question is, what are the dates of the current ESDs that the states will be using until this is developed?
Right now, I think everything was done in 2003 to 2005. So that's and they're all available right now in Wyoming. In Colorado, not so much. Montana, Idaho, Utah's got a little more, but yeah, it varies from state to state, and it will start to vary from MLRA to MLRA.
Where did the very first for this project come from?
I don't know. I think NRCS probably initiated this all basically back in the late 90s. And with the soils shop recently reorganizing and taking control, well, I don't know if control is the right word, but they took control of the ecological site descriptions with collaboration with ecological sciences part of NRCS. And I don't know what the driver was. I just go into work and clip grass. I don't know. I don't know the answer.
SRM actually worked with the liaisons of NRCS, but there was a work crew or a task force within SRM that was established that started looking at the state and transition model, moving away from the successional model that we had generally worked with. And so that task force actually went to NRCS in 1990 and started the first progression of the first ESDs. And then it was actually as NRCS started to look and realize, and the task force came back to NRCS, that we were shortfalls and the states were not meeting the national standards that they wanted or that we needed for the state and transition models and ecological sites. So it was then again addressed, and they decided to come up with the national standard, and that's where the second generation ESDs came from.
Thanks, Margie.
Go ahead and thank Bryan for that presentation.